Can I uncover the truth behind Pastor Kirk Franklin's emotional confession, or will Pastor John Gray's revelation leave me speechless? Can the full truth behind John Gray's emotional confession truly be uncovered, or has Kirk Franklin's revelation already changed the way we see everything? The gospel community has been wrestling with that question ever since John Gray stood before his congregation and delivered a deeply emotional admission that quickly spread far beyond church walls. What initially appeared to be a personal apology soon evolved into a much larger conversation, one that touches on leadership, pressure, accountability, and the culture surrounding modern ministry. When John Gray made his confession, the reaction was immediate and intense. Supporters described it as raw, heartfelt, and courageous. They saw a pastor willing to lower his guard and confront his shortcomings publicly. In an environment where spiritual leaders are often expected to embody strength, certainty, and unwavering faith, that kind of vulnerability felt unusual. Many people appreciated what they believed was honesty and humility. At the same time, others were not so easily convinced. Questions surfaced almost instantly. Was the confession complete? Did it address every concern? Was it prompted by genuine remorse or by external pressure and mounting scrutiny? The debate that followed reflected a broader shift in how audiences respond to public apologies. Today, people do not simply accept statements at face value, they analyze tone, timing, and follow-through. They look for consistency between words and actions. Media coverage amplified the situation. Commentators dissected every detail of the confession, replaying clips and offering interpretations. Some analysts suggested that the emotional weight of leadership may have contributed to the moment. Others believed there were personal challenges that had been building for years. Because not every detail was publicly explained, speculation filled the gaps. The lack of clarity left many wondering whether the confession was only part of a deeper, more complicated story. One reason the moment resonated so widely is that it disrupted a familiar image. Pastors, especially those leading large congregations, are often perceived as pillars of stability. They counsel families, preach hope, and provide guidance during crises. When someone in that position reveals personal struggle, it forces the community to confront a difficult reality: leaders are human. They experience stress, fatigue, doubt, and pressure just like anyone else. Yet humanity does not erase responsibility. That tension between empathy and accountability became the heart of the conversation. Some members of the public emphasized grace, arguing that spiritual growth includes acknowledging mistakes and seeking forgiveness. Others insisted that accountability requires more than emotion, it demands transparency, structural safeguards, and measurable change. As discussions intensified, Kirk Franklin entered the conversation with remarks that reframed the narrative. Known not only for his musical influence but also for his candid commentary on faith and culture, Franklin's voice carried weight. His connection to John Gray added another layer of significance. When he spoke, people listened. According to Franklin, the confession should not be viewed solely as an isolated personal failure. Instead, he suggested it reflected a broader issue within church culture. He emphasized that leaders are often placed under extraordinary pressure to maintain an image of perfection. Congregations, social media audiences, and institutional expectations can create an environment where admitting weakness feels dangerous. Over time, that pressure can become overwhelming. This perspective shifted the focus from individual missteps to systemic dynamics. Franklin highlighted the need for accountability structures that protect both leaders and congregations. He argued that transparency should not be reserved for moments of crisis. Instead, it should be woven into the everyday fabric of leadership. When oversight, mentorship, and open communication are in place, leaders are less likely to feel isolated. Franklin's comments sparked renewed debate. Supporters agreed that church culture sometimes contributes to unrealistic expectations. They pointed out that many pastors carry responsibilities comparable to executives overseeing budgets, managing staff, leading large teams while also serving as spiritual caregivers. The emotional toll of such multifaceted roles can be significant. In that light, Gray's confession appeared not only personal but symbolic of a broader challenge facing modern ministry. Critics, however, cautioned against shifting too much emphasis away from personal accountability. While systemic pressures are real, they argued, individuals still make choices. Understanding context does not negate responsibility. For them, the priority was ensuring that transparency leads to concrete action rather than simply reframing the narrative. The conversation soon extended beyond one church or one leader. Faith communities across the country began reflecting on their own structures. Do pastors have safe spaces to express doubt or fatigue without fear of losing credibility? Are there clear accountability systems in place? Is vulnerability treated as a strength or a liability? These questions gained urgency as more people engaged in the dialogue sparked by Franklin's remarks. Another factor that complicated the situation was the role of modern media. In previous decades, a pastor's confession might have remained within a local congregation. Today, a single clip can reach millions within hours. Social media accelerates reaction, amplifies criticism, and sometimes distorts nuance. Leaders operate in a landscape where private struggles can quickly become public narratives. The pressure to manage image is greater than ever. Franklin reportedly highlighted this reality, noting that public figures often feel compelled to present polished versions of themselves. The expectation to be inspirational at all times leaves little room for visible imperfection. When cracks appear, the response can be swift and unforgiving. In that context, Gray's emotional moment may reflect the cumulative weight of visibility and expectation. The broader implications are significant. If leaders feel unable to admit struggle early, problems may intensify before they are addressed. Creating cultures where honesty is encouraged before crises erupt could prevent similar situations in the future. Franklin's call for transparency was therefore not merely reactive, it was preventative. He urged churches to reconsider how they define strength and success in leadership. At the heart of the discussion lies a profound tension. The church proclaims grace and redemption, yet its leaders often operate under intense scrutiny. How can communities uphold high standards while also allowing room for growth and humanity? How can accountability be firm yet restorative? These are not simple questions, and they extend beyond one confession. Gray's emotional display forced many to confront their own expectations. Some realized they had unconsciously placed spiritual leaders on pedestals. Others reflected on how easily public opinion can shift from admiration to condemnation. The incident became a mirror, revealing both individual vulnerabilities and collective attitudes. Franklin's involvement added depth to the conversation. By speaking openly about pressure and systemic challenges, he broadened the lens. He suggested that the issue is not merely about one person's failure but about how institutions function. Accountability, he emphasized, must be consistent and transparent not only when controversies arise. Observers noted that this moment could become a turning point. If churches take Franklin's comments seriously, they may implement clearer governance structures, mentorship systems, and mental health resources for leaders. They may foster environments where vulnerability is normalized rather than stigmatized. Such changes would not erase past mistakes, but they could reduce the likelihood of future crises. Of course, not everyone agrees on what reform should look like. Some prioritize doctrinal clarity and disciplinary measures. Others focus on emotional health and relational accountability. The diversity of opinions reflects the complexity of the issue. There is no single solution, but there is widespread acknowledgement that something must evolve. It is also important to resist sensationalism. Headlines often frame events in dramatic terms: shocking truth, bombshell revelation, speechless reactions. While such language captures attention, it can oversimplify nuanced realities. The truth behind any confession is rarely one-dimensional. It involves personal decisions, relational dynamics, institutional structures, and cultural pressures all intertwined. As the conversation continues, many are watching closely to see how both Gray and the broader church community respond. Words, however powerful, must be followed by action. Accountability requires processes. Transparency requires openness over time, not just in a single emotional moment. In reflecting on this unfolding story, one lesson stands out: leadership is complex and deeply human. Spiritual authority does not eliminate vulnerability. If anything, it intensifies the need for support and oversight. The gospel community now faces an opportunity to examine how it balances expectation with empathy. Whether Kirk Franklin's revelation leaves people speechless or inspires them to dig deeper, one thing is certain: the narrative has shifted. The focus is no longer solely on a single confession. It has expanded to include the culture that shapes leaders, the systems that sustain or fail them, and the collective responsibility of congregations. Ultimately, uncovering the truth may not mean discovering a hidden detail. It may mean understanding the broader context, the interplay of pressure, expectation, responsibility, and humanity. If this moment leads to stronger accountability and healthier leadership models, then the difficult conversations it sparked will have served a meaningful purpose. The story continues to unfold, but its impact is already clear. A confession opened the door. A revelation widened the frame. Now the future depends on whether the lessons drawn from this moment translate into lasting change within the church and beyond. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.